You know what? This intro's getting pretty old, so I made a new intro to keep things fresh. Enjoy! Sorry to keep you waiting. Hello everyone, I'm the Omni-Slayer at your service. First of all, I am so sorry for not giving you anything to watch for so many months. What can I say? College exams are a bitch to deal with. Moving on, 2013 was a wonderful year for gaming, not only because so many awesome games came out in 2013, but also so many equally awesome upcoming games were announced in 2013. But what about the games that I've personally played for the first time in 2013? I can honestly say that 2013 was the year when I played the most games for the first time. Enough to make this not a top 10, not a top 15, but a top 16 games I've played in 2013. Why top 16? Well, there's a good reason why, I'll explain it later down the line. What? You thought I was gonna steal a line from the Nostalgia Critic? Come on guys, I'm not that unoriginal. Anyway, you know the rules by now, one game per franchise, only games I've played, yada yada. Oh, and these have to be games that I played in 2013 for the first time. So I'm not limiting this list to just games that came out in 2013. With all that said, let's get this party started.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It looks like your target finally decided to make a move. Don't you worry. I've got a trusty new partner on board.
I might have mentioned at one point that RPGs are my least favorite video game genre, with Pokemon being my only exception. Aren't they still my least favorite genre? Not exactly. I still don't like most RPGs, but not as much as I did before. Why? Because there are two RPGs besides Pokemon that I just love so much to the point of near obsession. One of them being Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. Where do I even begin with this amazing masterpiece? Everything in this game is just wonderful. The story is by far the best of the entire series, as it tells the story of three friends, Ventus, Terra, and my favorite, Aqua, who will stop at nothing to protect each other at all costs. That alone makes the game engaging enough to play it for hours and hours to no end. But what about the gameplay? Well, like in any other awesome game, that's the best part, as Birth by Sleep uses an engaging battle system which implements a huge and fully customizable command deck, where there's no end to how you can set up all kinds of skills and finishing moves available to you, whether you obtain them by leveling up or mixing two skills to create a bigger and more powerful one. All of the three main characters play differently as well, as Terra likes to focus on sheer physical force, Aqua likes to use many different kinds of magical skills, and Ventus likes to use a balanced mix of both. Even the path each one of them takes feels different from one another. For example, in Deep Space, a world based on Lilo and Stitch, Terra helps Jumba free Experiment 626, also known as Stitch, from its containment cell, and later Aqua shows up to try to capture both Jumba and Stitch, because Stitch knows something about Terra, before Ventus comes in to help Stitch fight off Captain Gantu and escape the Galactic Federation, which has absolutely nothing to do with the Galactic Federation from the Metroid series. So why is this masterful game so low on the list? Well, it might be because I don't really own the game, since I only played a little bit of it at my friend's house, otherwise it would have been a lot higher. That or the other 15 games on this list are way better. Sorry, bring up the next segment!
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
How many of you love superheroes? How many of you love sandbox games? How many of you love sandbox games with superheroes? Then Infamous 2 is the perfect game for you. When I was at my friend's house, I played a lot of Infamous and Infamous 2, and while the first game is pretty great, the sequel is undeniably a lot better. Why? Well, let me list the things that were fixed and or upgraded from the first game. 1. Since Cole McGrath starts out with powers and abilities he got in the first game, it's natural that the sequel would have a lot more variety with his powers, and also give him brand new ice or fire powers to complement his lightning abilities, depending on how much good karma or evil karma you collect. Which brings me to 2. In this game, we're introduced to Cole's personal angel and demon on his shoulders, Usikuro, an NSA agent who helps him out whenever possible, and Nyx, a swamp witch with a hunger for revenge and destruction. Helping Usikuro gives you good karma and access to ice powers, while blowing stuff up with Nyx gives you evil karma and access to fire powers. Despite these two representing the moral polarities the original game was known for, both of them are surprisingly complex, as they sometimes make choices throughout the game that are neither right or wrong, thus making the choices you make work more natural and subtle instead of the old and utterly predictable adopt a puppy or drown a puppy mechanic. 3. The enemies in the original game were unbelievably annoying, shooting at you everywhere you go with near perfect accuracy, forcing you to either shoot them down with electric projectiles or get close to them and give them an electric powered super punch. But melee combat was so frustrating and useless that you end up doing the former more often. But in this game, it's now possible to dodge their attacks by rolling on the floor, and you can also sneak up on enemies for extra experience points. And melee combat is vastly improved with Cole's signature weapon, the Amp, which is an oversized tuning fork charged with Cole's electrical powers, allowing him to hit foes harder and from a slightly longer distance. So overall, Infamous 2 is everything a sequel should have, with great story, beautiful visuals, and a unique overworld for you to do whatever the hell you please, and amazing and surprisingly complex characters, for the most part. I'm looking straight at you, Joseph Bastard without soul or shame Bertrand.
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
Back in my first vocal countdown top 15 favorite video game franchises, I mentioned that I barely played any spin-offs from the Mario series, apart from the massively overrated Mario Kart Wii. Well, it just so happens that I managed to play a Mario spin-off so amazing that a newfound respect for the series was born inside me. Fairies and Gentle Colts? Super Paper Mario.
Huh? What?
Oh come on, not this again! What did I do this time? Wait, people hate this game? How could they hate such a glorious masterpiece like this one? Really? Just because it's different from the other Paper Mario games?
You bitch. You did it. Stupid, stupid bitch doesn't even know.
I honestly don't understand why people hate this game. Everything about it is just so freaking awesome. Let's start with the story. Princess Peach gets kidnapped again as usual, but not by Bowser this time. Instead, she was captured by a mysterious villain known as Count Bleck, who forces her to marry Bowser to create the Chaos Art, which he will use to suck the whole universe into oblivion. Trust me, it gets darker the further you progress through the game. The writing is hands down some of the greatest I've ever seen, with all the characters except for Mario who is silent like usual, having at least one funny line or two, and even the side characters including the main villain Count Black get a shit ton of character development throughout the game. Believe me, you'll sympathize with Count Black when you get to know his true motives for wanting to destroy the universe. And then there's the one thing that turned off a lot of fans for some reason, the gameplay. Instead of the RPG style of gameplay that defined the other Paper Mario games, Super Paper Mario has a platforming style of gameplay where you can switch from 2D to 3D with some RPG elements thrown into the mix, like using items to refill your health and to boost your attack power. I personally love this style of gameplay, mostly because platformers are my favorite gaming genre, and adding some elements from other gaming genres does help give it more variety and make it feel unique, which is something most gamers don't seem to appreciate, and that's what bothers me. These people worked hard as hell and put a lot of effort to make this game as enjoyable as possible by doing something different with a game that works perfectly well, yet fans everywhere rage why the game's full of glitches just because it's different from what they're used to play. It's like a parent who worked hard and put a lot of love and sweat into making his very own birthday gift to his son, only for the spoiled brat to throw a tantrum and break the damn thing as soon as he opens it. Let's just wrap this up. Super Paper Mario is a fantastic game with lots of funny and interesting characters, awesome level design, awe-inspiring story, but still got little to no respect from most fans for one stupid reason. Come on guys, give this game a chance. Please.
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
Motion controls can be seen in two ways, either as one of the greatest innovations in gaming, or as just a cheap gimmick used to attract casual gamers. There have been games where the motion controls were just there and didn't add anything special to the game itself, but there have also been games where motion controls actually helped to make the game a lot more fun to play. One big example of these type of games is the number 13 on this list, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. Now you might be thinking, what about Metroid Prime Trilogy? It has all the 3 Metroid Prime games, with the first 2 games having motion controls that made them even better than the originals. Well, believe me, I really wanted Metroid Prime Trilogy, but I couldn't find it anywhere, so I had to go with a 3rd game instead. So what did this game do that was far better than the previous installments? How about the controls? Thanks to the Wiimote, the FPS style gameplay feels a lot more fluid than in the previous games, and the motion controls all feel very natural and responsive. Unlike in some games where motion control only adds more frustration when you're trying to do a certain action but you end up doing something completely different. Another thing that's different is the voice acting. This is actually the first game in the Metroid series to feature voice acting, and I gotta say the voice acting is pretty decent and the dialogue is good for the most part. Then there are the bosses. Holy crap, these bosses are awesome! I may have only played 2 Metroid games, but I can already tell that this game has the best set of bosses in the entire franchise, with awesome bosses such as Wonders, Omega Ridley, Gore, Gandrader, and Dark Samus. Everything about this game is just so awesome that it makes me wonder what would happen if I got Metroid Prime Trilogy instead.
Billy, you're going to ruin your eyes if you keep doing that. Come on, we're late for school.
On second thought, I shouldn't have asked. Next segment.
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
Oh boy, Gran Turismo 5! Finally! After years and years of waiting, it's finally here! I can't wait to experience the wonders of racing simulation for the PS3! Holy crap, that was so freaking disappointing! It's so boring and bland, it almost makes me give up on the series. Oh, a Christmas gift for me? Thanks, sorry! Gran Turismo 6? I don't know, sorry. I appreciate the thought, but after the bitter taste that was GT5, how am I going to enjoy this game? Okay, I'll play it, but I'm keeping my expectations very low this time. Gran Turismo is the best racing series ever! Woo! So yeah, I love Gran Turismo 6. There's not really much I can explain about this game since most of it is the usual Gran Turismo stuff like entering races, winning fabulous prizes, getting all kinds of cars, complete license tests to unlock race events, and all that stuff. So what makes GT6 so special? Well, first off, the graphics. Oh my god, the graphics are so beautiful and so brilliantly detailed that you would think that this is a PS4 game. Just like how Gran Turismo 2 looked like a PS2 game, and how Gran Turismo 3 and 4 looked like PS3 games. This is yet another piece of evidence that proves that the guys at Polyphony Digital are the ultimate pioneers of video game graphics, pushing the console's graphical limitations to above and beyond. One of the major problems I had with GT5, among other things, was how they made license tests nearly pointless since you don't need to do them in order to unlock race events. Thankfully, GT6 made them useful again as one of my favorite "one more try" moments in video games. And also a set of challenges that the player must pass in order to unlock a new set of racing events, which include your standard races and championships, the coffee breaks, which is just an excuse to go batshit insane and knock every traffic cone you see, and the mission races, which is like the license tests, only harder. Overall, GT6 is the perfect driving simulator for the PS3 with over 1200 cars to choose from. Very impressive graphics and so much content that you'll be spending weeks trying to get 100% on everything. This game is so good it makes me almost forgive GT5. Emphasis on almost.
You bet. Let's do this.
What can I say about Sonic Lost World? Nothing. I can't say anything about this game because I haven't played it yet. Instead, I played a game I regretted not getting when it first came out, Sonic Colors. As you all know, there was a time where the Sonic series had a huge downfall, with games like Sonic 06 and Sonic and the Secret Wings getting nothing but negative scores from both critics and fans alike. Even other 3D Sonic games like Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic and Black Knight, and Sonic Unleashed got a ton of hate. But unlike Sonic 06 and Sonic and the Secret Wings, it was hated for little to no reason. It was only when Sonic Colors came out that the fanbase calmed down a bit, and I can clearly see why. The story is pretty simple. Dr. Eggman built a gigantic interstellar amusement park to atone for his misdeeds. But of course Sonic and Tails know what his true intentions are, so they try to stop Eggman from fulfilling his true evil plan, which happens to be using a bunch of colorful aliens as living fuel for his mind-controlling device to brainwash the entire world to do his bidding. The gameplay is as simple as in the classic Sonic games. Run as fast as you can and destroy any enemies who dare to stand in your way, only for them to be either blown away by your supersonic speed or just simply blown up with a good old-fashioned homing attack. A new gameplay mechanic introduced in Sonic Colors is the Wisps. Little aliens will give Sonic special powers to access areas he otherwise couldn't have gotten in on his own. Also, the writing is pure comedy genius. Every single moment in this game is just freaking hilarious, mostly from the dialogue between Eggman and his two robots, Sonic and Tails, or even this.
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me!
Just too awesome to describe with my own words. Also, wanna know how fast Sonic can go in this game? Well, just press the boost button and...
Oh yeah! Now that's what I'm talking about! Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
Legend tells of an ancient artifact that can grant a woman's wish. The Skull Heart. However, if she is impure of heart, her wish will be corrupted and she will be turned into an immensely powerful twisted being of destruction. The Skull Girl. A new Skull Girl has risen. Who will defeat her and claim the Skull Heart? And that's pretty much the story behind Skullgirls, one of the best fighting games in existence. Considered a throwback to all of the classic 2D fighting games of the old days, Skullgirls has a unique art style which is a mix between Japanese and Western animation that really stands out from all the other games. But fancy artwork doesn't mean a goddamn thing if you don't have awesome gameplay to back it up. Fortunately, that's not a problem in the slightest, as the game itself features a very small all-female roster of 8 characters, which at first would turn off some people due to not having that many fighters. To that I have 3 words: quality over quantity. You see, most fighting games that have a huge roster of 30 plus characters usually have at least one character that you try out, get bored, and never use them ever again. That's not the case with Skullgirls, as every single character plays and feels differently from each other with their own personality and fighting skills, making them all useful and enjoyable to play as for every type of gamer. Want a strong grappler? Cerebella is your girl for the job. Want a fast close combat expert? Miss Fortune is right up your alley. Want a deadly brutal powerhouse? Then my main girl, Painwheel, is the perfect choice. You can even customize your own fighting style by using up to 3 characters to create a lot of powerful and deadly combos that can easily pulverize the opponent if you know what you're doing. And when I heard they made a vastly updated version of the game called Skullgirls Encore, at first I was like, seriously? You just had to announce a new and better version of Skullgirls right after I bought it? But then when they said that everyone who bought Skullgirls gets the Encore version for free, I just have to say,
Yay! Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
why don't we start this segment with a huge effing bang? If you're a fan of content makers in general, you may have noticed that they mostly talk about at least 1 or 2 games in every video they make. Some of those games being called classics that did poorly in sales but managed to get a lot of very devoted fans. No More Heroes is one of those games. The story involves a cocky, foul-mouthed otaku named Travis Touchdown, whose main objective is to kill a bunch of badass, most of the time crazy, assassins in order to become the #1 assassin. What's his motivation behind all these pointless yet awesome assassinations? Simple.
IS titties, IS and titties, IS titties, IS and titties.
Dicks.
What?
But in all seriousness, Travis does have a good reason for wanting to be the #1 assassin other than having sex with the mysterious and most of the time bitchy Sylvia Christel. But that's for you to find out as you fight some of the most unique, epic, and insane assassins in the world to make your way to the top, including the mentally unstable Batgirl, the young but arrogant Shinobu, the very beautiful Holly Summers, the psychotic Destroyman, and the coolest Irish troll ever, Henry Cooldown. Another amazing thing about this game is the writing. Suda51 managed to make Travis Touchdown a typical loser who spends most of his free time playing video games, watching porn, watching anime, reading manga, and killing people into the badass anti-hero that everyone loves, by giving him the perfect balance between funny moments which make you fall off the seat from laughing so much, and serious moments that makes him a lot more mature and a much better character to everyone's eyes. This is why No More Heroes has gathered a huge cult following, so much so that it eventually got its own sequel and also got ported to the PS3, which is the version I'm playing, under the title of No More Heroes, Heroes Paradise. It still has the hack and slash style gameplay from the original Wii version, but the PS3 version manages to improve on a bunch of aspects like better graphics, a very sweet mode which gives the hot female characters more appealing clothing, and also 5 bonus bosses from the sequel, which include Skelter Elter, Nathan Copeland, Gimme Owl, Matt Elms, and Alice Twilight. There are so many other awesome stuff about this game, but telling every single detail about this game would make this video 10 times as long as it already is. So if you want to find out why No More Heroes gets a lot of praise, in case you weren't fully convinced by what I said earlier, go buy this game, pick up the controller, and
Let the bloodshed begin.
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
The Ratchet & Clank series have always entertained us with the hilarious dialogue and the over-the-top arsenal of weapons that can blow shit up in a matter of seconds. But in recent years we've got two spin-offs that were mostly kinda good at best, All for One and Q-Force. Thankfully Nexus came to restore what was so amazing about the series. How should I describe this game's story? Well, it's an epilogue to a crack in time, where Ratchet & Clank now faces new super dangerous threat in the form of the Block twins, Nefton and Vendra, who plan on releasing an interdimensional entity bent on whatever evil he plans on doing to the universe. Maybe he wants to take over the universe or the story? I don't know. I don't even know if it's a dude. Anyways, the best part about the game is what all the other Ratchet & Clank games are best known for. Hilarious and clever dialogue, interesting characters, each having at least one very funny moment, upgradable armor, gladiator battles, and an arsenal of cool and unique weapons like Mr. Zircon, the Omni Blaster, the Nether Blades, the Winterizer, and my favorite, the Nightmare Box. These weapons can also be upgraded by leveling up and by having many different mods bought with Veritanium you've collected throughout the game, making them a lot more powerful than ever before. Another cool new feature in the game is the ability to play as Clank in an alternate dimension known as the Netherverse, where you have to solve a bunch of puzzles by altering gravity in several different ways. These puzzles are, in my opinion, probably the most challenging missions in the game, since most obstacles are placed in a way that makes it pretty difficult to avoid, which is a big problem when you're being chased by a vicious energy beast at the end of these levels. The only thing that bothers me though is how short the game is. I mean, it's not as short as Quest for Booty and Q-Force. In fact, it's a lot longer, but it's also shorter than Tools of Destruction and The Crack in Time. I'd say you can finish the game in about 4 to 5 hours, but that's more of a nitpick than anything else. So overall, Ratchet & Clank Nexus is a fantastic yet short game that brings us back to what made the series so damn awesome in the first place.
Oops, wrong button.
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
Remember when I said at the beginning of this video that I would wait to explain why I decided to make this a top 16 instead of a top 15? Well, the reason behind it is that when I bought Skullgirls on PSN, I had some spare money for another game, so I decided to spend it on the number 7 game on this list, Beyond Good and Evil HD. Thank you, Lightning Big 98, for introducing me to such an amazing game! This game you play as Jade, an amnesiac who surprisingly does not brood over a dark past, like several other characters that I know of. Instead, she's a fun, caring, and strong photojournalist who spends her time protecting a bunch of orphan children from an army of evil aliens called the Doms, with the help from her uncle Paige, who happens to be a pig. She's adopted, guys. So don't get any messed up ideas about all that later. That's 4chan's job. Disclaimer, do not go to 4chan unless you're gonna get manipulated in the worst possible way. Seriously 4chan, what the hell's wrong with you? Anyway, back on topic. There is a lot to love about this game, like the story, which I can talk much about without dropping some major spoilers, so you're gonna have to play it for yourselves. The environments are also very beautifully detailed and so freaking huge. Now, one of the missions in the game is to photograph every single creature on the planet, which pretty much gives you an excuse to explore the overworld known as Eris. Then there are the characters, each and every single one of them having their own unique and entertaining personality that Jade can interact with and having their fair share of character development throughout the game. Another awesome thing is, of course, the gameplay, as the game has a mix of action, adventure, stealth, platforming, and puzzles which all blend in perfectly together to make for a very fun and keep you on your toes experience, and the controls are pretty smooth as well. At no point does it feel like you've lost control of what you're doing. So if you died, it was your fault and not the game itself. So all in all, Beyond Good and Evil HD is a masterpiece that sadly not a lot of gamers seem to have experienced, as it did poorly in sales. Although I keep hearing there's a sequel in development. Well, all I gotta say is, Ubisoft, Please don't dish this wonderful series like Activision did with Crash Bandicoot.
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
I mentioned before there were two RPGs besides Pokemon that I loved so much, one of them being the Kingdom Hearts series. So what's the second one? I'll tell you. This one! I gotta be honest people, at first I wasn't that interested in the Persona series, cause, you know, it's an RPG and like I said before, I'm not too fond of RPGs. But after watching that Rusty Gamer's top 10 Persona 4 moments and the anime based on it, I was finally convinced to try it out. And it is awesome! As the main protagonist, whose name is Yu Narukami in the anime and Persona 4 arena, you're the new kid who just moved from the big city to the small town of Inaba, where several people are found dead by mysterious circumstances and you discover a world beyond the TV screen called the TV World. Yeah, not a very clever name for an alternate dimension. And it's up to you and several new friends from high school to solve the mystery behind the murders in the TV world. The gameplay is divided into two parts, Life Simulation and traditional dungeon crawling RPG. The Life Simulation part involves, what else? Do whatever the hell high schoolers usually do, like hang out with friends, playing sports, go on dates, do homework, that kind of stuff. It's mostly there just so you can have a relaxing time after collecting lots of useful items, battling hordes and hordes of monsters, and saving people from being murdered by the dark side of their own personalities in the TV world, which is what the other part of the gameplay is all about. Another thing I love about this game is the characters. Every single character in this game is very likable, has a lot of personality and character development, and just so very unique and awesome that any one of them can be a fan favorite. That's the typical best friend who always has your back, Yosuke, the tough and energetic tomboy, Shie, the sexually ambiguous manly-ass tough guy, Kanji, the crazy and over-the-top hilarious bear, Teddy, the very shy and awkward but strong girl, Yukiko, the teen superstar, Rosette, and the very mysterious and serious detective, Naruto. There are even lots and lots of side characters who are just as entertaining. That is, except for King Moron and that rotten attention-only bastard Mitsuo. One final thing I have to mention about this game is that the soundtrack is godly. Seriously, every single music track in this game is pretty fun and catchy as hell, with some of my favorites being Reach Out for the Truth, Your Affection, Backside of the TV, Pursuing My True Self, and I'll Face Myself. So overall, Persona 4 has a great story, unbelievably awesome characters, unique and fun gameplay, and a phenomenal soundtrack that will most likely get you so deep into the game that it's almost like you're getting pulled into your own TV. That sounded a lot better in my head.
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
Austin? You son of a bitch! How do you manage to easily convince people to try out some of your favorite franchises? Cause if it weren't for you, and also Quarter Guy, I would have never even thought of trying out this awesome series. All I have to say is, thank you for introducing me to Blaze Blue. Blaze Blue is hands down the best fighting game series I've ever played. One of the things that makes Blaze Blue stand out from the other fighting game series is the story. Most fighting games have stories that are kinda okay at best, since the developers tend to focus more on making the gameplay as enjoyably flashy as possible than making a very compelling and engaging story. But Blaze Blue manages to have both incredibly flashy gameplay and a spectacular plot that rivals even Kingdom Hearts in terms of complex storylines. Now let's talk about the game that introduced me to the series, Blaze Blue Continuum Shift Extend. As the name implies, the game is pretty much an extension of Continuum Shift, and by that I mean new modes that have been added like Abyss Mode, where you can buy stuff to make your characters a lot more powerful and see how many fights can you beat until you get KO'd, and Unlimited Mars Mode, which pits you against the toughest fighters in existence. How tough are they? 2 words. Unlimited Azuma. Oh boy, I can hear many Blaze Blue players shouting with painful memories of getting their asses kicked by that freaking troll. God, I love him. Then there are the 4 new characters, 3 of them being the DLC characters from Continuum Shift, and they all now have their own story modes. There's Makoto, the super hot and hilarious squirrel girl and a perfect example of fan service character done right, Valkyrie, gaming's greatest gentleman and a werewolf done right, and Platinum, the magical girl with multiple personalities. And then there's the new character added to extend, Various Grover, by far the most hateable, despicable, soulless monster I have ever met. But I'll talk more about him on a later list. Now I know what you're thinking, but JP, Omni-Slayer is the first game in the series. Would you usually start with the first game of the series in order to understand the story and Continuum Shift? Not to worry, as Extend added a story arc called Calamity Trigger Remastered, which sums up most of the events from the first game. So this makes it a perfect game for newcomers as well for veterans with its new modes, awesome characters, outstanding gameplay, and worlds of content that will keep you entertained for weeks. Alright Austin, if you're watching this, I want you to know that even though I've praised the Blaze Blue series and did it enough justice, there's no way you can get me interested in another one of your beloved franchises again.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, I'm sure about that.
Then you don't mind if I talk about Fire Emblem Awakening and how awesome it is.
I was never interested in the series before, so what makes you think I'll be interested now? Go ahead, show me how awesome it really is. I'll probably just ignore everything you say.
Alright then. So, what do you think?
God damn it, Austin! I can't believe you got me out on another one of your beloved franchises! Again!
My work here is done.
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
Lego has always been my childhood, whether it's the actual toys or the sweet video games I grew up with. I always cherished the good memories I had building spectacular original creations, and also taking them apart to build more creations. I even thank the modern Lego games for introducing me to awesome new franchises I'd never been interested in before, like Indiana Jones and Lord of the Rings. But there's only one game that was so good that it made Batman Arkham City look like Superman 64 but in comparison. That game is Lego Marvel Superheroes. This is my idea of a perfect licensed game. The gameplay is as great as every other modern Lego game. You get in there and have fun beating the crap out of any supervillain and stop them from doing whatever evil plans they're doing. And in case you get bored with nothing to do, just fall back to the golden rule.
Yeah? What's that?
Break stuff!
Like in all modern Lego games, breaking stuff earns you Lego studs, which you collect to buy new playable characters, new vehicles, and also a few extras that either make you stronger or are just there for silly occasions. The characters are almost every single superhero and villain from the Marvel universe that you can think of. Spider-Man? Check. Hulk? Check. Iron Man? Check. Captain America? Check. Thor? Check. The X-Men? Check. Fantastic Four? Check. Doctor Doom? Check. Magneto? Check. Loki? Check. Deadpool? Freaking check. Hell, there's even a bunch of bonus missions narrated by Deadpool himself, and it's as hilarious as you'd think when it comes to Deadpool. The story's not that special, it's just your typical superhero stopping supervillains from doing evil things. But it's after you beat the game that it becomes a lot more interesting, as you will be spending hours and hours doing hundreds of side quests throughout the Lego version of New York City, which, by the way, is freaking huge! Most of these side quests involve helping people with random stuff, beating set number of enemies, time trials, and the previously mentioned Deadpool bonus mission. Trust me, you'll be spending days and days trying to complete the game. Is there anything wrong with this game? Well, aside from the wrong loading screens, some fan favorite Marvel characters were excluded from the game. Some of these include Nightcrawler, Ultron, and Rogue. Seriously? You put Howard the Duck in the game, but not Rogue, one of the highest and best mutants in the Marvel universe, and you decide to put that lame-ass duck instead? What the hell, man? But that's just a nitpick, so overall, Lego Marvel Superheroes has replaced Batman Arkham City as my all-time favorite licensed game. With its amazing gameplay, spectacular selection of heroes and villains to play as, great and amusing writing, and loads of content to keep you entertained for days to come. Now if you excuse me, I'm gonna go revisit my childhood by building some Legos. Was there something I was supposed to be doing right now? Oh right! The countdown!
Excuse me.
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
I've said this before and I'll say it again. I really don't like horror in any form of media. I hate being scared, I hate watching scary stuff, and I hate having nightmares after watching a horror TV show after midnight. Not that that's ever happened to me before. Yet. There are exceptions though, like The Walking Dead, Shaun of the Dead, Zombieland, Paranorman, all movies made by Tim Burton, and of course Naughty Dog's latest masterpiece, The Last of Us. Oh Naughty Dog, you just keep giving me more and more evidence to prove that you're the best gaming developer ever. The Last of Us takes place 20 years after an outbreak of a mutant cordyceps fungus started to infect people, turning them into flesh-eating monsters that devastated the entire planet. You play as a smuggler and long-time survivor of the outbreak named Joel, as he escorts a 14-year-old girl named Ellie throughout the now ravaged USA, believing she might hold the cure for the infection that sent the world to shit. There are a lot of good things about this game, like the relationship between the two main protagonists of the game, Joel and Ellie. At first Joel only sees Ellie as a burden to carry throughout their journey, but as the story progresses, he starts to become more caring and loving towards her, like she was his own daughter. Sure, they do have some pretty harsh moments, but that's pretty common in most real-life relationships, and like in any good relationship, they settle their arguments like mature, reasonable people. Another good thing about this game is the atmosphere. It knows exactly how to make you feel tense and stressed when confronting a clicker, it knows exactly how to make you shed a tear every 15 minutes, and it knows exactly when you should relax and enjoy the peaceful moments. This is a game that made me feel lots of emotions, like sad and depressed, tense and scared, calm and happy, and trust me folks, I'm not a very emotional person. The only times I remember crying were when I watched E.T. as a kid or when Damus died in Jack 3. But The Last of Us managed to make me cry more than once during the first 15 minutes of the game. That is saying something. The only bad thing I can think of about this game is that the story has several horror survival cliches that everyone got sick of watching over and over again. But if those cliches had perfect execution, which happens to be the case with The Last of Us, then there's not much to complain about. All of this makes The Last of Us my second favorite PlayStation exclusive game. What is my personal favorite PlayStation exclusive game? Join me at number 2 on the list.
Ready to go? You bet! Let's do this!
After Slide 3 came out, fans have been anxiously waiting for another sequel for the series, and sure enough, a sequel came. 8 years later! Did Sucker Punch just forget they were supposed to make another Sly Cooper game when they were working on the infamous series? Well, apparently that seems to be the truth, as Senzoru Games took the job of making the next Sly Cooper game, and I gotta say, they did a perfect job of Sly Cooper Thieves in Time. The story takes place years after the events of Sly 3, when Sly pretended to have amnesia just so he and Carmelita can be together at last. But it doesn't last for long, as Sly learns from Bentley that the pages from the TVS Raccoonus are disappearing for some strange reason. So now it's up to the Cooper gang to travel back in time, thanks to a time machine made by Bentley, and fix the damage done in the Cooper timeline. There are so many good things I can talk about this awesome game. Let's start with the biggest highlight of the game, the Cooper ancestors. They all may play very much like Sly, but trust me, they're very much different from each other. You got Ryoichi, a ninja master from feudal Japan who invented sushi and by far the best ancestor to play as. Tennessee Kid, the cowboy with the heart of gold. Caveman Bob, the first ever Cooper ancestor. Sir Garrett, an overdramatic and overly cocky knight, and Salim, a grumpy old thief from ancient Arabia. Playing as each and every single one of the ancestors is the best part of the whole game, since each of them has unique abilities and personalities while still having the usual Cooper family overconfidence. Another thing I love about this game, like I said in previous videos, is the relationship between Sly and Carmelita. In previous games, all they did was spouting one-liners at each other and the usual cops and robbers routine. acting. But in this game, they act more like a love couple. They have happy moments, a huge disagreement that makes Carmelita more than pissed at Sly, moments where she makes Sly jealous out of spite, and moments where they set aside their differences to work together to defeat a common enemy. You know, stuff that you would actually see in a real good relationship. The gameplay and art style are a huge step up from the PS2 games. When I imagined how Sly Cooper would look like on the PS3, this is almost exactly what I pictured to be like. The animated cutscenes feel more like a high-quality cartoon, and which makes me wish there was a TV show based on the Sly Cooper series. And the gameplay cutscenes feel a lot more fluid, as the characters now move more like real people and less like stiff animatronics like in the PS2 games. One final thing I'd like to mention about this game is the voice acting. Nothing against the voice actors from the PS2 games, but when I found out who voiced the characters, I was like, who the hell are these people? In the case of Thieves in Time though, they actually got a number of really famous voice actors to voice most of the characters in the game, like Grey Ryle, Nolan Lord, Steve Bloom, Sam Rigo, Patrick Seitz, Yuri Lowenthal, Fred Tatasciore, and many others. Did I mention that I absolutely love this game? Perfect gameplay, perfect characters for the most part, perfect writing again for the most part, and perfect visuals are all I can say about this near perfect game. So what can top it? Let's see the honorable mentions first. Did you honestly expect anything else? Yeah, it is pretty predictable, I know, but can you really blame me for loving this game so much? I mean, it's the main reason why I bought the 3DS in the first place. So let's talk about Pokemon X and Y. We all know how the story goes. It's the same old story from the first generation. Pick your starter Pokemon, catch Pokemon, train them, face the gym leaders, collect 8 gym badges, stop the evil team from fulfilling the evil plans, which almost always involve the legendary Pokemon, face the Elite Four, and become the champion. You know, the usual stuff. But like in every other Pokemon game, there's always a handful of brand new features that keep them from being as competitive as a certain franchise that a certain developer keeps digging out of their asses and leaving out childhoods to either collect dust over the years or getting a really ugly change just to sell their games. Anyways, there's a full-on trainer customization this time. You can actually make your trainer work the way you want, instead of working the same old default design like in previous installments. It's about that time they added this sweet new feature. There's also Super Training, which is a great and pretty addicting alternative to EV training, Pokemon Ami, which is like Nintendogs but with Pokemon, and the big changes to the actual gameplay and visuals. Since this is the first time we see a Pokemon game from the main series on the 3DS, they resorted to using cel-shaded 3D models instead of animated sprites, which makes them work a lot cooler in my opinion. The Kalos region is of course based on France, and as you expected, the scenery looks absolutely beautiful with new and improved graphics. So much detail and effort put into the design of the locations. It's breathtaking to say the least. Now for the two big changes in the gameplay, the addition of the Fairy type and the Mega Evolutions. The Fairy type, despite all the bitching it gets from fans just because it drastically changes their strategies. Oh yeah, right, that never happened before. Is a pretty welcome change to the mix, as it can easily beat the crap out of the overpowered dragon types, but also having weaknesses to poison and steel types, making the former a lot more useful. And then there are the Mega Evolutions, possibly the one thing no one ever expected to happen, but it did, and it is awesome. Why does it give an already powerful Pokemon an even more powerful form, but it's only temporary and only one Mega Evolutions allowed during battle. This kinda reminds me a bit of... I'm pretty sure everyone made this joke, but still, I just had to. Another thing I need to point out is the new Pokemon introduced. Only 69 new Pokemon have been introduced for the 6th generation. Some people would say it's a huge disappointment, but like I always say, quality over quantity, and it definitely shows in here. Almost every single new Pokemon is awesome and powerful in their own way. Some of my favorites include Barbarical, Dragalge, Quawitzer, Firewall, Delphox, Greninja, Revenant, Porger, Meowstic, Alucha, Greninja, Pangoro, Aegislash, Noivern, Greninja, Zygarde, Aeolisk, Tyrantrum, and freaking Greninja! But all in all, I simply can't find anything wrong with Pokemon X and Y. It's everything we love about Pokemon, but with brand new features and some new changes to the gameplay that drastically force veteran players to rethink their strategies. Which in my book is a good thing. I'm the Omni-Slayer, and Pokemon X and Y has tied with Pokemon Black and White 2 as my personal favorite game of all time. See you guys next time.